for joining. This is ZetaRadio Live. This is Jonathan Kobe speaking, and we're broadcasting to you on a pretty special day. So you can see the pinned tweet and some of the headlines in the media this morning. Quote, ZetaChain raises $27 million for interoperable layer 1 blockchain that connects all chains, including Bitcoin, Cosmos, and Ethereum, end quote. So at the top of the call, we're going to talk more about this vision of connecting everything and the why behind ZetaChain for both developers building crypto applications and for end users. We recognize probably a lot of new crypto users and crypto analysts on the call learning about ZetaChain for the first time today. So we'll give you the 101. And I think for the rest of the community following us to date, the funding news should be a good reminder about what we're trying to achieve in the big picture and affirm how serious ZetaChain is about offering something special, and that's going to live a long time. So then we'll transition into ecosystem update as usual. We have both co-founders of Ultiverse on the panel. We also have the founder of Eddy Finance, first Omnichain DEX on ZetaChain announced earlier this week. And then we'll wrap up with a word from community. We have Paul, ambassador out of ZetaChain France, with us as well. So with that, we can jump into ZetaChain mission and vision. We have both Brandon, lead product contributor at ZetaChain, on the line, as well as Dennis, lead contributor for developer experience at ZetaChain. Gentlemen, thanks for joining ZetaRadio.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Awesome. So yeah, I'll pose this question of why ZetaChain to both of you. The project's 2 years in development, 1.5 million users globally. There are now over 100 companies across different use cases deployed on testnet, 13 million cross-chain transactions cumulatively. What's going on here? What's kind of driving all of this traction on ZetaChain in your opinion? And feel free to jump in, either of you.
Yeah, I guess I can start from developer point of view. So for those who are not familiar with ZetaChain, it is a blockchain that connects all other blockchains and provides a developer experience for teams to build omni-chain dApps, right? What does that mean? So basically, just writing a single contract is enough for you to be able to manage assets on all the chains that connect to ZetaChain, which is super cool if you think about it, because you don't have to come up with a complex architecture for your dApp and necessarily resort to message sending, right? This is an option, but with omni-chain contracts, all the state of your dApp is in a single contract. So it's so much easier to build something like this. And the way I like to think about omni-chain dApps is like a dApp that has superpowers to reach into all the connected chains and move assets or transfer data or pretty much anything. So this is what ZetaChain provides. It provides a very streamlined way of building very complex omni-chain dApps that wouldn't be possible to build really without something like this, or at least not with ease that ZetaChain provides. So a couple of things that make ZetaChain stand out is, one, it's a fully sovereign L1 that is not a bridge, right? Sometimes people confuse solutions like this with bridges. ZetaChain is not a bridge, but rather it's the L1 EVM compatible L1 that facilitates data transfer between blockchains. So this provides more peace of mind for users who are transferring assets, and it just generally means that there is a whole kind of ecosystem behind it, right? So it's not just a solution to transfer data between point A and point B, but rather a whole ecosystem of dApps. And one more thing I will mention here, actually two things, if I may. The second one is Bitcoin interoperability. So this is really a distinctive feature of ZetaChain, that you don't really need to connect to a blockchain that only has smart contracts, right? You can also move assets from Bitcoin to ZetaChain and to any other connected chain. So this is really powerful because it lets you essentially build dApps on top of Bitcoin without really building on Bitcoin directly, right? So you can build an NFT dApp on ZetaChain and transfer BTC from Bitcoin to this dApp. And the last cool thing, which I think is worth mentioning, is that ZetaChain focuses primarily on native assets. And by native, I don't mean just gas tokens, but unwrapped assets, because that's what people really want, right? You don't want to send your token through a bunch of different chains and get a very complex token wrapped multiple times, right? You want to get the real thing, and that's what ZetaChain is focusing on. So right now, gas assets are supported. Support for ERC20 is built into the protocol, and you'll be able to build with it very soon. But yeah, so.
Thanks, Dennis. Yeah, so ZetaChain is designed to connect to any chain or layer, including Bitcoin network. Native Bitcoin swapping is actually live on testnet. You'll hear from Eddie Finance later in the call. How about you, Brandon? Why ZetaChain?
Yeah. I mean, Dennis touched on a lot of the huge points, and I guess I'll just echo a lot of what he said. But in terms of the growth and what we've already seen so far, I think it's really just a nod to that vision and that mission to connect all of these very disparate and in a lot of ways inaccessible sides of the crypto ecosystem. ZetaChain's not focused on trying to siphon, liquidity and users from other chains, but more to act as a multiplier for ecosystems that provide real value to people. And that comes in a lot of flavors. So on the Bitcoin side that Dennis was talking about, the ability to finally be able to do something other than sending and receiving Bitcoin and bringing that into the broader DeFi ecosystem without the concerns of a centralized bridge. You still have ownership over your Bitcoin. That is something that's very exciting and something you might see later today in Eddie Finance. And then also able to have applications that abstract or really simplify the notion of a network or what network you are on. So in a game or metaverse like Multiverse, for example, you could start to build an experience where a user can bring their wallet from whatever chain they're on or assets from whatever chain they're on and operate, without even having to worry about that. So I think people are starting to and many have already resonated with that mission. And very excited to see ZetaChain make progress towards this goal and bringing that to market with all of you guys involved. Whether you're testing on Zeta Labs, contributing on Twitter, or even to code or building applications. Very excited to see mainnet come soon, and I think we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Nice. Yeah, I think ZetaChain community, but also the space in general, is burning for better interoperability standard. So excited to see this come to life as well. I want to drill a bit deeper into developers who are building applications in clearly a multi-chain environment right now. And as developers, you want to be able to meet users wherever they are, regardless of the underlying network. Maybe you could share some of the obstacles developers face in building multi-chain applications today, and drill into the value prop of ZetaChain platform for that group. Dennis, maybe you want to start?
Absolutely. So there are different ways to build multi-chain dApps, and even what is building a multi-chain dApp is kind of a question, right? Sometimes some projects think that deploying the same dApp onto multiple chains is already multi-chain. To me, that's not really the case. That's just deploying. That's just having the same app on different chain. It's not. If they're not communicating, then it's not really multi-chain. So a step further from this is when you actually make these dApps communicate with each other, deployed on different chains, but they communicate. For example, you can send a message from one dApp to another, from one chain to another, to mint an NFT, right? You burn an NFT on the source chain and you mint it on the destination chain. That's more interesting, and it's often referred to as message passing. And many solutions offer that, right? And it's good. Sometimes it works for projects that are, I guess, smaller or don't require that much interoperability, right? It's just an additional feature. But it's complex, right? You have dApps on different chains, and they all need to keep track of the state of, for example, token balances, any kind of data that app needs, right? And it's complex to synchronize the state between chains. So you need to really think hard about how you architect the whole application, right? And you don't want the synchronicity between these requests to ruin the experience or lead to something worse, right? So ZetaChain offers cross-chain messaging, but it goes beyond that and offers a better way to build omni-chain dApps. Is when you don't need to send messages, you don't need to deploy to a bunch of different chains. But what you do instead is you deploy a single contract, and it can do everything you need, right? So this really makes it easier for developers to build an app like this, right? You only build one contract instead of build and deploy one contract instead of a dozen contracts, but also simplifies it for end users, right? Because they also don't need to interact with a bunch of different chains. They can interact directly with the contract on ZetaChain, or they can use any of the connected chains. So this gives this brings advantages both in developer experience as well as in user experience. So and the other obstacle is involving Bitcoin into all of this, right? Because you can't really properly build on Bitcoin, and most solutions out there don't support chains like Bitcoin that don't have smart contracts. ZetaChain, on the other hand, does have this capability, and you can build something really cool on ZetaChain and accept BTC and mint NFTs or mint any kind of tokens on ZetaChain in response to BTC transfer from Bitcoin.
Thanks, Dennis. Yeah, so one contract for all chains. It's like deploying on Ethereum. ZetaChain is EVM compatible with the added functionality of that app working by default on all connected chains, including Bitcoin you just mentioned, which will be available for mainnet. Brandon, anything to add on as far as developer experience building multi-chain apps?
Yeah, I mean, I think Dennis touched on all of the important parts again, but I think at the end of the day, the kind of like core principle of what ZetaChain's working on is improving the overall experience, whether it's for developers or users. So being able to build an app that truly focuses on the utility of what you are building rather than having to worry about what chain you are deploying on is a big improvement for even just developers getting started. Now you can build essentially for all chains backwards compatible, so connecting to something like Bitcoin, but also as ZetaChain continues to build more chain support, being able to connect to other new chains that we may not even know exist or will exist in the future that offer different technical utility for developers and users. So I think it's a big opportunity, and being able to take a lot of existing applications that you've built on EVM or Ethereum ecosystem and being able to take that to multi-chain very easily is a huge opportunity for developers and companies interested in being, crypto future-proof in a sense. So yeah, that's I think super exciting. Developers, companies, users across the board.
Right. Yeah, it starts with developers, and then maybe we could talk about end users. So, like the press release today says, quote, for end users, ZetaChain enables the creation of apps and services with reduced slippage, fees, attack surface, susceptibility to race conditions or time constraints, overall faster and better user experience, end quote. And I think, Dennis, you touched on this idea of having one simple system where everything is synchronous and managed in one state. Maybe we could help simplify and translate what that means for end users on the spaces.
Yeah, so to simplify it for a user who honestly doesn't really need to worry about a lot of those underlying issues or potential problems, is you, with a ZetaChain universal app, can transact across chains, with your Bitcoin, with your Ethereum, with your Matic, or whatever you're trying to do in one step, essentially as if everything were on one chain. So in the more complex architectures that Dennis walked through earlier, you very commonly today may be paying for pretty complex gas to send messages between different chains, both on the way in and on the way out. Have to pay for some network fees in the middle, whatever that intermediary layer is. And then also the transactions that you're performing on the way in are not directly tied to the transactions on the way out. So if you're trying to synchronized state between two different chains, for example, make sure your NFT is all good on some chain. If something goes wrong in any piece of that kind of meta transaction, there's a chance your transaction gets stuck. There's no guarantee of, the expectations of the person sending the transaction and then what happens on the destination chain. But in this case, all of the logic is in one place. So you're transacting across chains, even like 3 or more chains at the same time, where all of the logic is in one ZetaChain EVM transaction. So, if that transaction fails for whatever reason, it's the same, process as if a transaction fails on Ethereum mainnet. Your transaction fails if you were trying to send an asset that is just reverted back to your address, and that's that. You don't have assets getting stuck. You don't have to worry about, in a trading example, something drastically changes by the time your message gets to the destination and you experience an unwanted amount of slippage. All of it is in just one step. So you're not like kind of doubling or multiplying the slippage or risk concerns you have to deal with as a trader. That's hopefully simplifying some of the different situations you might have to deal with today that are essentially just one step, one transaction now with apps built on ZetaChain.
Right, and one wallet to access dApps on any chain and manage native assets and data on those chains. And everything needs to work if we're going to bring in the next hundreds of millions of users into Web3. We need that same level of usability that we see with Web2 apps. So I want to talk about next steps on roadmap and making this all a reality on mainnet. But I do first want to pose more of a general question to both of you, which is about blockchain in general, and I suppose the crypto market in general, which is that like a lot of over-promising, under-delivering, a lot of hype narratives, spending money and time at conferences and parties. I mean, you could say it's like, what innovation in crypto has there really been, like something transformative since Uniswap? And so what do you think about, let's say, the L1 space in general and how it compares to what you've seen with ZetaChain and the 150 contributors that are building the technology to date?
Yeah, I can take a crack at this. So I think I mentioned it before, where a lot of the L1 and I mean even L2 or whatever ecosystem we're talking about in crypto nowadays is in a lot of ways just like a play to siphon. Everyone's goal is to siphon users and liquidity into their ecosystem, although the apps end up being the same. And that feels like an anti-pattern, maybe almost distractive to getting more actual utility and meaningful applications built in crypto. In an ideal world, developers pick and choose chains they want to build on because of the underlying utility. Like they need super high performance or high compute and they choose the chain, but they need accessibility to the rest of liquidity and other ecosystems when it's needed. So I think the space is a little too tribal in a way, whether it's super chains or all these ecosystems that exist. And ZetaChain's approach is really to just level that playing field and drive it towards a focus on usability and utility. So developers can focus on building apps that actually do something for an everyday person, or whatever their user base is, rather than saying, hey, we just want to clone this application onto this chain because this new chain's a bit hotter now. Yeah, that's kind of my general sentiment towards the ecosystem today.
Thank you. Dennis, any insights on your end?
So what I've seen happening in the past couple of years is realization that it's not only about dApps, or it's not about which chain is going to be the one, right, the most important one that everyone's going to build on, but rather kind of teams are exploring into building their own chains. And I think this is very interesting transformation. I mean, I'm a bit biased. I've been contributing to Cosmos for many years now, but I think this is an interesting trend that applications are realizing that maybe they outgrow existing chains, right? Maybe they're limited by what by the platform that they're building on top of, and they want more, so they build their own chain, and this offers them a lot of advantages, right? But I think where Zeta chain comes into all of this is that if we have hundreds or thousands more chains, it will eventually become unmanageable and hard to build dApps that span all these chains. So I think one of the roles Zeta chain plays in this multi-chain future is provide a reliable way to connect all of this explosion of different app chains and rollups and dApps that span across multiple chains, and provide a reliable way for them to communicate and for developers to build something that they wouldn't have to go crazy every time they need to integrate with yet another chain, right? It will be handled for them, and they will just focus on the business side of their application rather than focusing on infrastructure and thinking about how to connect all of these separate things together.
Indeed. Thank you. So let's wrap up here and talk about next steps to mainnet. Particularly, there's a big developer ecosystem with apps on testnet. How should they prepare for mainnet launch?
Yeah, so I mean, simply put, continue building with a focus on usability and security. And timeline-wise, we're looking at Q4 to launch mainnet, and super excited to work with all of you, regardless of what type of application you're working on, to be ready for launching then. I think have a lot of exciting stuff going on in the ecosystem. So if you're a user, just staying tuned on Twitter, in our Discord for the various announcements. And
this space was downloaded via spacesdown.com. Visit to download your spaces today.
As a developer, staying tuned on, I think, most useful places, Discord in the dev area, the dev zone. So for new tooling, for new tutorials and templates and things like that, a lot of what Dennis has been really pumping out the past couple of months to lower the barrier to developing on ZetaChain. Stay tuned for that. And yeah, very, very excited for the next few months.
Awesome. Yeah, dev announcements. Look out for updates there from Dennis. And then we'll keep you updated on social channels and live events like this leading up to mainnet as we work through these big milestones. So we can wrap it up there. You just heard from Brandon, the lead product contributor at ZetaChain, and Dennis, lead contributor for developer experience. Guys, thanks for joining ZetaRadio.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Thanks. All right. So joining us on the line are a whole roster of people from Ultiverse. We have both co-founders, Jim Bull and Frank, on the line, as well as Moonlight. Ultiverse is a metaverse gaming platform, one of the newest integrations on ZetaChain. Guys, thanks for joining the spaces.
Hi, Jim. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. So I think everyone is eagerly waiting for these next true level gaming experiences in Web3. Would be great to hear your thoughts on what's happening in this space of Web3 gaming, and also what your team is building at Ultiverse.
Yeah, of course. First and foremost, I believe the best way to describe the current market might be darkness before dawn. Although we're still in a bear market, and many, especially gamers, are going wary, given the prolonged period without truly groundbreaking developments. We do see this an optimal time for builders, and many in the gaming space especially, both from traditional Web2 background and the Web3 native backgrounds, are actually prepping new games launches, and ranging from the fully on-chain games to hybrid, what we call Web 2.5 games. And for us, an Ultiverse, and we are dedicated to crafting a gaming metaverse platform and powered by MetaFi. And we view MetaFi as the fusion of GameFi and SocialFi, which is poised to be the key driver for the metaverse and Web3 expansions. Our approach incorporates on-chain games, dApps, and media matrix, with the vision mirroring the Oasis from the movie Ready Player One with our communities. And this year, especially, we see in structure-wise, witnessing rapid advancement across various layers, and including ZK rollups and beyond. And as part of the Ultiverse team, we remain deeply optimistic and fully believe in the path we are forging, and the advancement of the infrastructures will only serve to accelerate our journey. So we are very excited in the journey to join ZetaChain to deploy our first SDK MetaMerge with you.
Excellent. And Moonlight, Frank, feel free to jump in. Any thoughts on gaming, the MetaFi space?
Well, I have to say that several months ago, when I first interviewed our ZetaChain on Binance Live, I didn't realize one day we could collaborate together, and this is really awesome. Thank you so much for the great opportunity, and we highly recommend our members and our audience over here be sure to try out our games on the ZetaChain net over here, because we have been spending a lot of time to build it, and we hope you like it. We believe you are going to love it. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, it feels like just yesterday we did that talk on Layer 1 blockchain. So let's dive into the partnership a bit. The headline came out less than 24 hours ago. Why partner with ZetaChain? And specifically, maybe you could talk about how cross-chain, multi-chain plays into the vision at Ultiverse.
Yeah, so first of all, I would like to congratulate you for the race, and that's very exciting to see how this can move to the next stage. And at Ultiverse, our vision is deeply in tune with the principle of cross-chain and multi-chain capabilities. In the last, I would say, 2 months, we have deployed across the chain, and we try a lot of new things, because we see it's essential for ensuring the seamless interactions and interoperability across diverse network, especially as gaming platforms, we are hoping to extend the gaming life cycle for each game we deployed. So partnering with the ZetaChain amplify this vision to accelerate our journey, as I mentioned earlier. We do see as a pioneer omnichannel solution that ZetaChain facilitates, the cross-chain interactions and taps into the liquidity across networks. Also, those new features I just learned today that all effectively address, I do believe that will be the cross-chain and multi-chain challenges. And beyond that, what set ZetaChain apart and what we believe will best attract our players as it is distinctive advantage, such as I think people keep talking that security and efficiency and ease of use, cost effectiveness and scalability and openness, and all these features are what we're looking for to provide to our gamers, especially for Ultiverse communities. We are deploying different type of games in the hope to provide a platform that no matter what sort of gaming skill you have, will be able to find the game that suits you the best. So that in that way, the lower the barriers of entrance will align both of our vision to encourage more people to join the ecosystems. And so that's why we hope that our cooperation with ZetaChain will enhance scalability, accessibility, and the overall user experience within Ultiverse. And more than that, I think as we see us as content creators, so we aim to bring the more fun and joyful gaming experience to our ZetaChain community families.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm particularly excited about cross-chain digital assets in games, NFTs, and in the future, players in games on Ultiverse will be able to buy and sell stuff and make payments from any token from any chain, including native BTC. So, yeah, if you want to learn more about that, for the folks on this call, that's called the ZRC20 token standard, and you can read more in the docs. So Jimble, with our partnership announcement, is also testnet support for the first game called MetaMerge, one of a number of different games on your SDK. Maybe you could share more about this project and how the community can participate in that.
Yeah, of course. MetaMerge is a mini metaverse powered by AIGC and provides users the chance to own, collect, and upgrade a merge virtual pets. It's the first light casual mobile game incubated by Ultiverse. And this particular version, what we call MetaMerge Match 3, is a mini game, especially for ZetaChain. It's designed to let everyone quickly familiarize themselves with the pets and achieve accomplishments on the ZetaChain testnet network. And it's very relatively simple. And in the game, that player can select 3 identical pets and use some skills to eliminate them. And pets will continue to overlap, and players can only select those on the top layer. I think there are more than 30 types of pets in the game, and player can also access them through their Ultiverse account and by connecting their wallet. The game will the difficulty will increase and becoming particularly challenging at higher levels. It is simple yet challenging, and to me, I think it's an ideal match for both members from our community looking to explore ZetaChain, and for those unfamiliar with Ultiverse and eager to try our game on ZetaChain.
Awesome. Yeah, the ZetaChain community loves games, so definitely check that out. Unfortunately, I couldn't get past level 5, so I'll have to try again. Any news that you want to share on future development plans, maybe with other games, or anything that the community can expect next from Ultiverse?
Yeah, absolutely. So First of all, since I mentioned that we are a platform, so we deploy game and also we have our media matrix. So looking forward, we are continuously striving to amplify our media matrix influence, and we're consistently aiming to produce top tier content, ensuring a steady flow of traffic, and cultivate this dedicated user base to become our seed users. And simultaneously, we set to unveil various games across different blockchain platforms. I hope that one day the all-in-one solution from ZetaChain will be ready sooner the better, so that we don't need to continue in the process deploying the same smart contract, slightly different version to different chains. And in a way that we hope that we can introduce the diverse type of casual gaming experiments. And with the enhanced infrastructures, our goal is to offer a seamless transition for users migrating from Web 2 to Web 3. And we're also expanding our metaverse experiments, especially in the Terminal City. We have hosted several events, and we will continue to host more events on the different scenes. And potentially, we hope this can increase in our players' interactions with our characters and assets from the Altiverse SDK. MetaMerge is first one. We have 4 more coming in this quarter. And this is not only we're hoping to deepen engagement and attachment, but also extend the longevity of our SDK games. And lastly, as I mentioned earlier, our exploration into a cross-chain capability will continue. I do learn that ZetaChain has planned for a unique solution that even for games, once deployed, that can attract players from every chain directly. We are super excited and enthusiastic about the Altiverse can join these exciting ventures with ZetaChain.
Amazing. Yeah, we're excited to support that roadmap, and particularly excited for the AAA and VR enabled games that you guys are working on. So everyone, that's Jim Bull, co-founder of Ultiverse, MetaFi, Web3 gaming platform. You can follow them at Ultiverse DAO to stay up to speed on these developments. And you also heard from Moonlight. You can tune into her daily podcast on Binance Live. Guys, thanks for joining ZetaRadio, and we'll see you at Token 2049.
Thank you so much. See you there.
Awesome. So next, we have Mergonk on the line, founder of Eddy Finance and Omnichain DEX on ZetaChain. Just went live on testnet this week. Mergonk, pleasure to have you on ZetaRadio.
Thanks, Jonathan. Thanks for having us here.
Of course. Awesome. So, yeah, you've been developing Web3 apps for some time, and I suppose before we even get into Eddy Finance, I'm curious to hear your thoughts from a developer standpoint on this fragmentation problem that we're talking about today. Like, what are some of the pitfalls of current interop approaches out there? What's sort of the current state, in your opinion?
Yeah, so I sort of agree with what both Dennis as well as Brandon said, that we in the last couple of years have seen a lot of chains come up, a lot of L1s as well as L2s that have been trying to come there. And right, everybody is trying to siphon users. All of them, for an end user, have great opportunities and good ecosystems. So the liquidity from these apps, from any chain, is now getting fragmented. Moreover, I think with the capabilities that app chains sort of do promise, we'll possibly see a lot of chains, sort of a lot of projects, a lot of dApps have their own chains as well after a point. So this will lead to further fragmentation. I think a good example is how we've seen a lot of fragmentation happen for perp dexes in last probably 6 months. A lot of chains having a lot of dexes and liquidity being fragmented there. So I believe that this is the right moment where something like ZetaChain, which connects every chain, is very, very important. And this needs to be done in a very profound manner, like ZetaChain is doing. Just to sort of look at how the space is being shaped up currently, we've seen almost like $2.7 billion being hacked in breaches. And
approximately 2 billion has been lost in last year alone. Uh, I think we in 2022 it was a nightmare just watching Twitter with these hack news, right? Ronin, Binance Bridge, Wormhole, Harmony Horizon, all of them had some sort of hacks. So when we look at it, what is happening is that the space is in a dire need for some solution that stands out and is battle tested against time. Like we have seen, so just to set some context, right, what happens is there are a lot of blockchains in the space. They do not have a mean to communicate with each other. Now that either lets them be isolated, and then there needs to be a mechanism for them to communicate. This communication is interoperability, and then you need to do something multi-chain or like cross-chain there. Uh, just to sort of simplify the problem, let's say you have Bitcoin, you be BTC on the Bitcoin chain, and you have Ether on Ethereum. Now these cannot communicate. So if you have Bitcoin, you need a mechanism to transfer it to Ethereum. How do you do that? Well, today there are famous mechanisms. For example, there's this lock plus mint and burn plus redeem mechanism, where what happens is you basically put BTC and mint some asset that is an equivalent there. So these are the bridges. They basically, we've seen commonly two types of bridges. One is the trusted bridge. Something what it does is locks in asset, redeem, and creates like another asset that's wrapped asset in general, which sort of tries to mimic that price. Uh, if we look at these trusted bridges, there needs to be a third party that takes in control and makes sure that nothing goes wrong. But this has a singular point of failure. For example, the famous wrapped BTC is all controlled by BitGo. And we've seen times where this has not played out well. For example, the Ronin hack, what happened there was there were four sort of validators for Sky Mavis that got compromised. And since four out of nine were compromised, they just need to crack one more to send a fraudulent message that would unlock that. So having wrapped assets creates a threat to how the sort of liquidity moves. The second type is like a trustless bridge. What happens in a trustless bridge is that all the logic or is written into a smart contract and algorithms decide the store of assets, not any third party. Wormhole is a good example of this. But what generally ends up happening with the current approaches, there are a lot of attack vectors that open up because you have uh, a contract on chain A, you have a contract on chain B, and these contracts interacting with each other via a third party or a messaging layer. In a lot of cases, what we've seen is the chain A pool is drained, whereas on chain B, a wrapped asset exists. Now, what happens is if you don't have enough asset on chain A to back that asset on chain B, sort of end up depegging the asset and it leads to a huge loss. Second is there is a middleware that sits to do the messaging. Now, messaging can be done via, let's say, a combination of a relay and oracle, and there are multiple approaches, but all of these have multiple attack vectors available. And we have seen in the past that there have been some fraudulent messaging saying, hey, probably you've received the money on chain A whereas you wouldn't have, and then minting it out on chain C. And obviously the third sort of part of this attack vector becomes the contract on chain B, which can again falsely be made to release the funds. So anytime in general with wrapped assets, the biggest threat is you just don't hold the risk while you're transferring the asset, but also hold it till the time you sort of own that asset. Right? So if I have the wrapped asset, I'm just exposed to that risk till I hold that asset. So this, with that, there have been other approaches that have been floated around. For example, just creating pools in native asset. The biggest drawback there is that liquidity gets fragmented because you would have to then create multiple pools that do not sort of have any unified liquidity there. And again, the cross-chain messaging, because of the complex message that you need to pass, becomes expensive. And also, there are several risks attached to those attack surfaces in the range of that cross-chain messaging. Uh, like there have been attempts to making unified pools. The biggest challenge that comes there is that every blockchain has a different block time. So it could be it might as well be possible that hey, you send something from I let's say want to transfer something from Arbitrum to Ethereum and Optimism, but since Ethereum's block time is way more than that's Arbitrum, it could be that I send the transaction first on Ethereum, but the pool gets drained by Arbitrum first, and in that case you need to revert back, do a reversion, and that's a costly process. And again, it relies heavily on the cross-chain messaging that's out there. So I feel this creates a situation where there is a dire need for something that's more interconnected and can connect these multiple growing blockchains together.
Thanks. There's a lot there. We can tell that you're a developer. So yeah, the wrapped tokens, the bridging vault model is not working. Some of the more progressive cross-chain messaging approaches, like Burn and Mint, could be a step in the right direction, but also questionable trust models, limits in compatibility with non-smart chains, for example, and you still have that asynchronicity challenge. And so it's like, how do you build complex apps like a cross-chain DEX, for example, which I think is a good segue into what your team is doing at Eddy Finance, which some people are describing as a multi-chain curve. Maybe tell us more about the technology, what makes it different than other DEXs.
Sure. So basically, Eddy Finance is a DEX on ZetaChain, right? So what we're planning to do is that we are trying to enable users to effortlessly move across different chains, not only limited to the ones that have smart contracts. So, like example, connecting BTC with EVM chains is what we're sort of doing here. Uh, or adding to that, like what we how we are able to do that is we have multi-chain pools, and these multi-chain pools would have native assets such as Ether, Bitcoin, Matic, all of these combined into a unified pool. And this what this does is because do not
Mergonk, we're losing you a little bit. You're cutting out, sir. Mergonk, we've lost you.
Yeah. So, is this
Still breaking up a little bit. Unfortunately, we're losing you, so let's come back when you get a better internet connection. We got Paul on the line. Paul's the ambassador lead out of ZetaChain France. Paul, are you with us?
Hey, what's up, guys?
Hello, hello. So we can just jump straight in. You're very well connected in crypto. I think a lot of people in the community know your handle. Maybe catch us up on your background, how you found ZetaChain, and what's ZetaChain France like?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Jonathan. So essentially, I'm currently working in a consulting firm in urbanism and architecture. So I'm not a Web3 native, even though I'm looking to jump into Web3 by the end of this year. And I found ZetaChain on the Layer 3 platform. I was an early user of Layer 3, the Web3 discovery platform through Quest. And you guys hosted a contest where we had to take a picture of the ZetaChain logo in front of a public landmarks. And basically, I was one of the winner of the contest. I get to know ZetaChain a bit better, join the Discord, join the community, and later became ZetaChain ambassador for France. I remember back then, more than a year ago, we were like 3 to 5 people on the French Discord channel, and right now we are hundreds and growing by the day, so I'm super excited.
Thanks, Paul. I think I remember that. That was a pic of you in a Zeta T in front of the Eiffel Tower, I think. And then you ended up doing a meetup there with a bunch of the community, which I think we should definitely do again before mainnet launch. So ZetaChain France, stay tuned. Speaking of Europe, Paris, so you were just at ETH Global Paris for the Zeta Hackathon. Curious what you thought about like the vibe of the event and the reaction from talking to developers hacking on ZetaChain.
Yeah, sure. The If Global event in Paris was incredible. To me, it was my first hackathon, so I was super excited. And even the place where the event took place was incredible. It was kind of a museum. It's called the Palais Brongniart in Paris. It was built by Napoleon Bonaparte, and it was, in fact, the old stock exchange of Paris, where the French branch of the Rothschild family used to come daily to trade stocks. So it was a crazy place for this event. The atmosphere was very ecstatic. I was super happy to meet people from all over the world, building on different Web3 projects and building on ZetaChain. And I mean, it was a crazy experience. The devs were fascinated by omnichain smart contracts, and especially the fact that we don't rely on wrap assets. So ZetaChain has better and enhanced security features compared to other cross-chain message passing protocols. So these guys were very excited about omnichain smart contracts and smart contracts on Bitcoin with native Bitcoin. That's the kind of things that set us apart from the other.
Nice. And speaking of Bitcoin, we're going to do a Bitcoin hackathon next week online. Not sure if that's public news yet, but you heard it here first. And yeah, ETH Global was phenomenal. One of the Zeta projects made top finalists at the overall ETH Global top 13, I think it was. So that was great. And right now we have devs at ETH Argentina. They're kicking off hackathon as we speak, I think. So a lot more hacking ahead. So I guess to close out, Paul, we're hosting this ZetaRadio on the back of a really big press release today. ZetaChain raises 27 million in funding for first public L1 that connects everything. Maybe you could reflect on the news and share what you're excited about with the mainnet launch Q4.
Yeah, sure. This is a super exciting news, and just right now I just cracked open a beer. So cheers, guys, for the fundraising. I mean, ZetaChain has been leading through tech for more than a years, focusing on securing partnership, funding, and adoption by devs. And you guys have done incredible work. And so I'm super excited by this news. I think the community will appreciate the fact that you guys gave more transparency today with this public announcement. So all prompts to you guys. And yeah, I'm super excited for the future. And I want to take this opportunity also to give a shout out to the French VIP contributors that were with me early on. Steph, Bader, Tivik, Theo, Lazard, and all the others. I think all these guys will appreciate the news, and the French community will be super pumped.
Awesome. Love the shout outs. You just heard from Paul, head of ZetaChain France. Paul, thanks for coming on ZetaRadio.
It was a pleasure. Thank you, Jonathan.
Thanks. All right. Let's give Eddie Finance one more chance here to come up to the stage. I see one request here. All right. Well, I'll direct all of you to the blog we posted on Monday introducing Eddie Finance and the ecosystem. Native Bitcoin swapping is live. Oh, do we have you on?
Yeah, hi Jonathan. I just got connected again. Sorry, I missed your last line.
No worries. So yeah, maybe we can finish up here. Tell us about the testnet integration, how people can participate, and perhaps what's next in your future.
Great. So currently we have made our website live, which is eddy.finance. Users can just hop on, go there, and then register themselves on the wait list. So we've been doing a phased rollout. where we are giving access to selected folks in different intervals, and they can then just hop on and go to the app, connect their wallets, make a swap, and yes, that's it. Like it's pretty simple, very intuitive. You just connect the wallets, BTC wallet as and a MetaMask or any other EVM supported wallet, and you just go and hit the swap button with the requested amount. One thing that everyone can now start gearing up with is getting the testnet tokens via the Zeta faucet, via ZetaChain's Discord or even the website, and they can just gear up as we will be giving out access in the next couple of days. What's more to come for people who just don't want to move between chains is that we are very close to introducing our pools, and these incentivized pools will be able to give you like good APYs on the native assets as well as your stable coins. So stay tuned for that, and that will create a good opportunity for everyone to hop on and then gain some good yield. Lastly, we have launched our campaigns as well as on Zeely, so you guys can now start coming on and then trying things out. Share close feedback with us, and as we improve, we'll be opening up to newer avenues, bringing in more product features, and then taking the roadmap from there.
Perfect. Yeah. So Murgunk's talking about token pools of native assets. Imagine having USDC, ETH, native Bitcoin on different networks in one unified pool. So that's really exciting. Murgunk, glad you were able to sort out your internet issue, and thanks for coming on.
Thank you. Thanks, Jonathan. Thanks for having me here.
All right. Well, that wraps up Zeta Radio Live. We're going to go into a Zeta Night claim party in Byte City at 12:30 Eastern. That's 27 minutes from now. Byte City is a launch partner on Zeta Chain, and we're going to celebrate with games and prizes in their metaverse. I'll tweet the details momentarily. Outside of that, thanks for tuning in. Congrats to everyone on the Fundraise announcement, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks.
This space was downloaded via spacesdown.com. Visit to download your spaces today.